I used to be beautiful. Or at least, that's what people told me. They said I had one of those faces that was hard to forget, the kind that caught attention, held it, demanded it. I never saw it myself, not really. I had my insecurities, just like anyone else. But beauty is a strange thing. It's fleeting. It fades. And it can eat you alive, if you let it. I didn't know that back then. I didn't understand the way it creeps up on you, the way it makes you believe that the world values you for something so fragile. But I know it now. It all started with the mirror. I'd always been obsessed with mirrors. I don't know where it began, maybe it was from growing up in a world where everything was about how you looked. From the magazines to the ads, to the way people looked at you when you walked down the street. You could see it in their eyes, the silent judgment, the way they assessed you from head to toe, deciding your worth based on the curve of your hips, the smoothness of your skin, the symmetry of your face. So I paid attention. I paid attention to every reflection I could find, every mirror I passed. I examined myself, scrutinized every detail, every flaw. It became a ritual, a way to check that I was still the person everyone said I was. Still beautiful. Still worthy. That's why I bought the mirror. I had been shopping for some vintage decor, something to add a bit of character to my new apartment. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just browsing the little antique store that I liked to visit when I needed a distraction from life. The place was crammed with all sorts of relics, old furniture, dusty paintings, chipped vases. But it was the mirror that caught my eye. It was unlike any mirror I'd ever seen. The frame was ornate, carved from dark wood, with intricate details that looked almost like swirling vines or roots. It was large, taller than me, and the glass was smooth and flawless. But there was something else about it, something that drew me in. It felt like it was watching me. The old woman behind the counter noticed my interest. She shuffled over, her wrinkled hands gripping the edge of the counter as she leaned forward. "Ah, the mirror," she said, her voice raspy. "Beautiful, isn't it?" I nodded, unable to take my eyes off of it. "It's one of a kind," she continued. "Very old. From Japan, I believe. The story goes that it was once owned by a noblewoman who was so obsessed with her beauty that she spent hours every day staring into it." I smiled politely, but the woman's words made me uneasy. Obsession was something I understood all too well. "Is it for sale?" I asked. The old woman hesitated, her gaze shifting to the mirror. For a moment, I thought she was going to say no. But then she nodded slowly. "If you want it, it's yours. But be careful with it," she said. "It has a history." I didn't ask her what she meant. I didn't care. All I knew was that I needed that mirror. The mirror became the centerpiece of my apartment. I placed it in my bedroom, right across from the bed, where I could see it every morning when I woke up, and every night before I went to sleep. It became part of my routine. I'd stand in front of it for hours, checking my reflection, making sure everything was still perfect. I'd run my fingers through my hair, trace the outline of my jaw, inspect my skin for any signs of aging or imperfection. At first, it was comforting. The mirror reflected back exactly what I wanted to see. It showed me the person I had always been, the beautiful, flawless version of myself that the world admired. But over time, something changed. It was subtle at first. I'd catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror and feel off. Like something wasn't quite right. My reflection seemed different, distorted in ways I couldn't explain. My face would look too sharp, my eyes too hollow, my skin too pale. But when I looked closer, the distortion would disappear, and I'd convince myself that it was just my imagination. But the feeling persisted. One night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection like I always did. But this time, something was different. The longer I looked, the more I noticed that my reflection wasn't moving the way I was. It was subtle, a slight delay, a fraction of a second where my reflection didn't quite match my movements. I raised my hand, and my reflection followed, but there was a moment where it lingered, like it was trying to catch up. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I told myself it was nothing, just a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. That's when I heard it. A whisper. It was faint, barely audible, but I heard it. A voice, soft and low, coming from the mirror. Beautiful. I stepped back, my hands trembling. The word echoed in my mind, repeating over and over. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining it, that it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But the voice was real. And it wanted something. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about the mirror, about the voice. It haunted me, calling to me whenever I was near it. I started hearing it more often, whispering things to me, telling me I was beautiful, that I was perfect, that I needed to stay that way. But the more I listened, the more I felt something inside me change. I started avoiding mirrors. I couldn't stand to look at myself anymore. Every time I did, I saw something different. My reflection had become something other. It wasn't me. It was a version of me that was wrong, twisted, distorted. My face was too sharp, my skin too pale, my eyes too hollow. But the mirror, the hungry mirror, it kept calling to me. I tried to ignore it, tried to go about my life like normal. But every time I walked past the bedroom, I could feel it pulling at me, whispering to me, begging me to come closer. Beautiful, you are so beautiful. I couldn't resist. One night, I gave in. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. The voice was louder now, more insistent, filling my head with its words. Stay with me, you are perfect. I raised my hand, touching the cold surface of the glass. My reflection smiled back at me, but it wasn't a comforting smile. It was twisted, malevolent, like it knew something I didn't. And then, before I could react, my reflection moved. It moved on its own. I stumbled back, my heart racing. My reflection stood there, staring at me, its smile growing wider, its eyes darker. What are you? I whispered, my voice trembling. The reflection didn't answer. It just stood there, watching me, waiting. And then, I felt it. A pull. It started in my chest, a sharp, aching sensation that grew stronger with each passing second. It felt like something was pulling me toward the mirror, dragging me closer and closer to the glass. I tried to resist, tried to pull away, but the force was too strong. I was being pulled into the mirror. No, please. I begged, my voice barely a whisper. But it was too late. I felt myself being drawn into the glass, my body dissolving into the reflection, becoming one with the twisted version of myself that stared back at me. And then, everything went black. When I woke up, I was still in the bedroom. But something was different. The air felt thick, heavy, like I was trapped in a place that wasn't entirely real. I stood up, my body feeling sluggish, like I was moving through water. I looked around, trying to get my bearings. The room looked the same, but there was something off about it, something that made my skin crawl. And then I saw it. The mirror. It stood in the corner of the room, just as it always had. But this time, something was different. This time, I wasn't in the reflection. Instead, I saw her. The twisted version of myself. The one with the sharp face, the hollow eyes, the malevolent smile. She stood there, watching me, her eyes filled with something dark and hungry. And then she spoke. "You are mine now." I stumbled back, my heart racing. I tried to move, tried to run, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped. I was trapped inside the mirror. The days that followed were a nightmare. I was no longer in control of my own body. The twisted version of myself had taken over, using my body to live her life, while I was trapped in the mirror, forced to watch. I could see everything she did, every moment, every movement. She would stand in front of the mirror for hours, staring at herself, admiring her own reflection. And every time she did, I could feel the hunger inside her growing stronger. She fed on it. The attention. The admiration. The beauty. It was like a drug to her, and she couldn't get enough. But it wasn't just her own reflection that she admired. She started bringing others into the apartment, friends, strangers, anyone who would look at her, anyone who would tell her how beautiful she was. And every time they did, I could feel her growing stronger. I could feel the pull of the mirror growing more powerful, dragging me deeper into its twisted world. I tried to fight it. I tried to scream, to break free. But it was no use. The mirror had me now, and it wasn't letting go. I don't know how much time has passed since I was pulled into the mirror. Days? Weeks? Months? It's hard to tell in this place. Time doesn't work the same here. It stretches and bends, twisting around itself until it becomes meaningless. All I know is that I'm trapped. Trapped in this reflection, watching as the twisted version of myself lives my life, feeding off the attention and admiration of others. I've come to understand something about the mirror. It isn't just an object. It's alive. It's hungry. It feeds on vanity, on obsession, on the need to be seen. And once it has you, it doesn't let go. I can feel it now, even as I write this. The pull of the mirror, the way it tugs at me, drawing me deeper into its darkness. I can hear the whispers, too, louder than ever. Beautiful, you are so beautiful. I don't know how much longer I can resist. I don't know how much longer I can hold on to who I am, to the person I used to be. But I do know one thing. I will never look into a mirror again. Because I know what's waiting for me on the other side. And I'm afraid that one day, when I look into the mirror, I won't be able to look away.